Greetings, visitors, subscribers, and I guess you saw the warning on the beginning of this video. So we will begin. The name of this video is called Cognitive Dissonance. And let's read what that is to begin with, okay? In psychology, cognitive dissonance is the mental stress or discomfort experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, values at the same time and performs an action that is contradictory to one or more beliefs, ideas, or values, or is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, and values. We're going to deal with the second part of this definition, that being, or is confronted by new information that conflicts with existing beliefs, ideas, or values. You know, Mark Twain once said, "It is easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled." Now, I run up against this all the time. I would say it's probably my biggest obstacle in talking to people about biblical truth at times. And I'm going to give you two examples that are not related in one way, but could be related in another. The first is going to be an example out of history. The other will be an example out of the Bible. All right, well, now, listen to me and don't just put me in a category in either one of these two before you hear me out. The first one, being that it's getting close to 9/11, we'll deal with 9/11. Okay, now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a truther or any of those two things, getting that out of the way. But I am a ex-journeyman iron worker. I have worked on towers, skyscrapers, nuclear power plants, well, one nuclear power plant in Stevensville, Michigan. And I've also been a construction superintendent and ironworker superintendent. The last job I was an ironworker superintendent on was the Linville Cove Viaduct that connects two pieces of the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina on Grandfather Mountain. Now, one thing I will tell you, and I've worked with a lot of steel, and I've welded with steel. Steel buildings do not collapse because of fires, okay? Steel buildings do not collapse in on themselves because of fires. It takes demolition to cause them to collapse in on themselves, especially when they are free falling. Now, you can look on the internet if you want to, or you can just write this off, but I'll tell you right now, the normal reports that you would get from the government defies the laws of physics. They are not mathematically viable. Structural engineers, architects, and scientists by the thousands would line up and say, the evidence that you've given us is impossible. These buildings did not come down by fire. All right, so that may cause what's called a cognitive dissident reaction in your mind, because it will disturb many of you who have been led to believe one thing and now all of a sudden may be presented with a form of truth that is unacceptable because of the direction that it will take your mind. All right, that's one example of cognitive dissidence as far as the human psychology is concerned. Now, normally what happens is either people don't care or they will label you somehow to deflect the situation so they don't have to deal with it because they don't want to be uncomfortable, all right? And they could say, well, you're one of those conspiracy theorists, which is a weaponized name that was given after the JFK and the Warren report, probably by the CIA or somebody to dissuade anybody from coming up with any other ideas. All right, well, that's another story. So now we're going to talk about the biblical application of this situation. If I tell you that Jesus did not die for all of mankind, well, and many of you, the ones that would care anyway, would say, no, that can't be true. Why? Because it interrupts what you have already been taught, and for you to come to the belief that it may be true is going to upset a lot of your beliefs, and that is unacceptable and causes cognitive dissonance. All right, but just like the first example, it can be proven beyond the shadow of a doubt through Scripture. But many people don't want to take the evidence from Scripture because what they have been taught by man would override the evidence of Scripture, because man has to take Scripture out of context to prove to you something that isn't there, whether it be the fact that man has the free will choice and the final decision, and if he's going to be eternally saved or not. That is not true and can't be proven in the Bible unless you take things out of context and manipulate the text. The fact of the matter is, Christ died for those he came to save, and every single one of those people are going to be eternally saved, and nothing can stop that. Nothing whatsoever. Nobody can add to the number that will be in heaven that God has already determined, and nobody can change that number. All right. Those things may cause cognitive dissonance in your mind. I'm going to read you a scripture out of the book of Matthew, and chapter 1, verse 21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. It doesn't say he's going to make it possible if they agree to it. It doesn't say if they invite him into their heart, or it doesn't say anything about anything like that. It says he shall. That means he's going to do it. It's going to happen. It's not a maybe situation or a might situation or a decision based on anything that has to do with the will of man. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up right now. I can give you evidence of the first thing I talked about, if you're interested, or more importantly, of course, the second thing that we've talked about, that being biblical truth. Now, I know, and I've had this happen many times before, if I start sharing what is actually in the Bible, what many people will do is say, oh, well, you're a Calvinist. Well, I'm not a Calvinist, but they've got to do something to get around the fact that they're not open to learn what is actually in the Bible, because it would upset their values, their beliefs, and most of all, their humanistic viewpoint of Scripture. All right. Bye-bye, and many blessings to you. Share the video, comment. If you've got anything you want to talk about, you want me to give you any links to prove anything that I've told you, I'm willing to do that. And by all means, have a good day. Blessings to you. Bye-bye.